¿Quién como Dios?
Nadie como Dios.
Y después de Dios,
Nadie como María, Jonathan. Bienvenidos a todos a este su canal Corazones Peregrinos. Bienvenidos a otro relato de fe. Hoy les tenemos un súper invitado y un súper capítulo que estamos seguros les va a encantar y va a llenar sus corazones. El capítulo de hoy lo hemos llamado El corazón de un sacerdote, fe, sacrificio y la Santísima Virgen María. Tenemos un súper invitado, está con nosotros el Padre Aurelio. Él es mitad australiano, mitad italiano, está aprendiendo el español, su español es muy bueno, así que de todas maneras vamos a estar ahí como entre Spanglish. Y bueno, él nos va a contar un poco acerca de su encuentro personal con Dios, de su encuentro con la Santísima Virgen María, que nos cuente un poco de cómo sintió el llamado de la vocación del sacerdocio, que nos cuente un poco de su camino espiritual y estamos seguros que eso nos va a alimentar mucho también en nuestro camino de conversión. Y sin más preámbulo, pues aquí los dejo con mi coequipero Jonathan.
Siento que es más que un sentimiento, tu plenitud más que un momento, porque no había nadie más.
okay, let's get started. Father, welcome, please. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you here. Let's get started with the faith. We would like to, because we know you from like not long time. Yeah. We call you. You're always available for everyone. I don't know. It's marvelous.
Yeah.
It's just whenever I ask you a favor, like you just say yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. And you were celebrating our renewal, my wife and myself, renewal of marriage, and it was wonderful. Was lovely, but we would like to know more about that faith, childhood, how everything started. Is this from family or?
Yeah, well, really, I had a great love for creation, but God, I didn't know where He was and how to communicate with Him and whether He really existed. And so I didn't really expect much. We didn't go to church on Sundays. We'd go on picnics with the family. But I do remember when I was in grade 3, I was catching grasshoppers in the primary school playground, and I was singing a song that we had just recently learnt in the classroom, which is "Go Tell Everyone." And as I was singing this song, I was catching grasshoppers, and I would look up at the church, which was in the distance, Our Lady Help of Christians, in East Brunswick, and I had this feeling that I wanted to be like Jesus, but I didn't know what that meant, because I didn't have any contact with priests until I was probably 19 years old, where I then realized that I was feeling this calling to be a priest. But my faith as a child was more in creation. And I'd often think, if God has created us, why doesn't He show Himself? Why is He hiding? So I was always thinking about God, but I didn't read the Bible. I didn't know how to pray the rosary. I didn't go to Mass. I didn't know anything about the Trinity. There was another thing, I guess, as I was growing up as a child, I had a great fear of death. Not only my death, but the death of my parents. And I'd often have nightmares that they had died. And it was sort of so real that it traumatized me. And in grade 6, when I was about 12 years old, my grandfather died. And I saw how my mum and my whole life changed because of the death of my mum's dad. And so there was this continual fear and searching for meaning in my childhood, even throughout my teenage life. And then when I was in year 9, a friend of mine died in a car accident. And so once again, I was confronted with this question about life. Now, what is the meaning, the purpose of life? And is there anything after life? after death? Is there life? And I was convinced that no, there isn't. And that really scared me even more because I was thinking, how would it feel to no longer exist? Because for me, death was you cease to exist. And so what was the purpose of my life if I was going to die anyway and not remember that I was alive? So they're the type of questions I had while I was growing up. Yeah.
That's a good question, and I think at some stage in our life, we just find ourselves asking ourselves those sort of questions.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something interesting because you got yourself facing an image of Jesus Christ. Yeah, is that what you say? Yeah,
Say that again.
an image of Jesus Christ
No, I didn't see an image. I felt when I looked up at the church,
at the church. Yeah.
when I was playing in the playground, this sense that I wanted to be like Jesus.
Okay.
Because in the song, it says, "Go tell everyone, go tell that the poor, the blind can see," and there's certain words about how Jesus was helping people, and I wanted to be like him, but I didn't realize it was be a priest, because that's what a priest is. It's to be another Christ.
Oh, it's kind of a vocation that you are receiving in your heart.
It was a
That-
gift.
yeah, a gift, yeah.
Yeah.
But why in the Catholic Church? So, do you have? Is that coming from
No.
family? Someone like inspire you?
No, I was ready when I realized that it was a calling to go back to the church before feeling called to be a priest. I was ready to leave the Catholic Church. And I remember asking a nun, her name's Sister Majella, she's still alive today. And I said, I want to join a church where I can really experience God's presence and grow in holiness. And I don't, even if it's not the Catholic Church, I'm ready to leave the Catholic Church. And she said, no, you're not going to find the tradition and the richness that you'll find in the Catholic Church. And she was so convinced by how she spoke to me that I didn't have to look anywhere else. I thought, no, what she has said to me, I will listen. And I really believe even today, after so many years, after 33 years of coming back, it's actually 33 years that I've come back to the church. I can say that what my friend, who is the nun, is true. Yeah, I can attest to that. I can be a witness. Just to come back to when I was a child, when my grandfather died, I remember going to the cemetery. And so really the only prayer that I learned to pray is the prayer that I often pray when I do funerals. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord. Let perpetual light shine upon them. May their souls rest in peace. But I learned it in Italian. L'eterno riposo dono loro, Signore, splende essa la luce perpetua che riposano in pace. Amen. Sure you know it in Spanish.
Esa es la de, no, cuando no le reza, cuando uno reza por las almas del purgatorio. La que dice que brille para ella la luz perpetua, que las almas de los fieles difuntos, dale Señor el descanso eterno y brille para ellas la luz perpetua.
You see, as a child, not many adults know that prayer, but as a child, I knew it. And the reason I knew it was I would go with my mum to my mum's dad's grave, which is my grandfather. She'd place the flowers every week and she would pray this prayer. So there already, in a very simple prayer, I think faith started to grow in my life. And it shows the power of witness for adults to teach children simple prayers that can help them grow in in their faith and love of God and care for others.
Father, and I reckon
Yeah.
is that zeal for the souls, which
Yeah.
is very important. Not everyone has it.
No.
The zeal for the souls, like
Mm.
that because to see souls in in every human being is very important. I don't know. I think,
Yeah.
well, that's what I discover in that after that turning point that I have in my life, like the conversion, when I started to feel that, like I go beyond that point. I'm in front of a human being, but I'm also in front of a soul, and
Mm. We
it's
often forget
yeah,
the spiritual dimension
exactly,
of humans.
because it's not tangible. It's not
No.
something that we can
See, yeah.
perceive like easy with the senses.
No, and I often say to people that the spiritual life is more real than the material world that we see. And often people are just living at the material level, but we're spiritual beings. And you're asking a question, the why in the Catholic faith, feeling called to be a priest in the Catholic faith. I couldn't be anywhere else. Why would you be anywhere else? Why would you water down the gospel? And I'm aware there's politics and difficulties in the Catholic Church, but we have a richness that stems back in succession to the apostles.
Yeah.
Why would you be embarrassed of that? I mean, it's such a wonderful privilege to be able to continue what the disciples were given by Jesus to continue that reconciliation between God and man. And we have the sacraments, the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist, the ability to go to confession where your sins are forgiven. I know I don't need to convince you, but it's just such a wonderful richness in our faith. Yeah.
Father, when you were mentioning that that nun gave you that advice, was there any specific moment of your life when you had that, let's call it, personal encounter with Jesus?
Oh yeah.
Did it happen? How did it happen? I'm very passionate about listening that kind of experiences from people and from friends.
Yeah, well, it happened really for me in a crisis. Often people come back to God in a crisis. And I was going to drop out of Year 12. It was 1991. And as I was about to drop out, I heard an audio tape in one of my religion classes about an American priest talking about God and prayer and about the prodigal son. And I realized that I must be the prodigal son because I don't go to church on Sundays. And I was thinking, because my mum says I'm a good boy, so what must I be doing wrong? And that's what it was. So for me, that was a turning point. So I came back to the church and I would sit at the back of the church. I'd be the last one to come and the first one to leave. And now I'm at the front of the church. I'm the first one to arrive and the last one to leave. But that's what faith does. It turns your world upside down. But there was two real changing, transformative moments in 1992. I went on a retreat in Whittlesea. It was a charismatic retreat. And I didn't know it was going to be charismatic because I'd heard all funny stories about the charismatics. And anyway, I was on the bus going to Whittlesea and I found out that it was charismatic. And I was just looking out the window towards home, thinking, how do I escape? How do I get out of here? But I was stuck
Scared of it.
Yeah.
there for the weekend. And the first interesting thing that happened was they had this gold thing like a sun placed on a little table with candles, and it was dark. And I had a real sense of a sacred presence, but I didn't know what it was. And I said to the girl next to me, I said, "What's that?" She said, "That is Jesus. And that for me was like, wow, Jesus is really there in the Eucharist. It's the host in the monstrance. No one explained it to me, but I'd already experienced God's presence in the Eucharist. When she said to me, that's Jesus, I remember saying to myself, this mystery is too important to be ignored. I have to become a priest. I have to dedicate my life to Jesus, to the Eucharist.
In front of blesses.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It just blew me
two
away.
things at the same time.
It blew
The
me.
turning point and the vocation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then what happened after that was I had a moment where I was watching people falling in the spirit, and they had mattresses, so no one was catching them. They would be prayed over, and they would fall. And I was just curious, so I thought I'd just go and talk to the lady and the people who were praying. I said, "What's this about?" And they said, "Oh, have you accepted Jesus as your personal savior?" I said, "No. Would you like to?" I said, "Yeah, but I don't know what that means." So they led me through a prayer, and I accepted Jesus as my personal savior, which basically is accepting our
Salvation.
baptismal promises
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and saying, yeah, I want to accept my baptism.
Yeah.
I no longer want to live for myself. I want to live for Christ who died
Wow.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
And before I knew it, I went boom. No one pushed me. I felt this force pushing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the ground for about 20 minutes, and I experienced such intense joy and peace that I'd never experienced in my lifetime. Like if you put my whole lifetime together, up until that moment, in that split second, I experienced everything more intense than what I did for the last 19 years of my life. And I remember I had flies going on my face. You know how annoying the flies are?
Yeah.
I didn't care. I was oblivious to it. They were landing on my face, they were buzzing around. And then I finally, got up from the floor, but it was, I felt really heavy. And the next day, when I went back to university, I dropped out. And I went to my parents and I said, look, I've dropped out of uni. And they were so like, what have you done? I said, I'm going to become a priest. And my dad said, figlio mio, which is my son. That's like to become a doctor or a lawyer. You're not smart enough to do that. You can't do that. Because I was going to drop out of year 12. And here I am at university and I'm becoming a priest.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Because I think we all experience that Jesus in our hearts, and I think it's taking that courage to go beyond and try to not try to understand. It's just to live it, to experience it. That's all. Absolutely. Well, talking about challenges and sacrifices, because I reckon
I think I think there's more in married life. But
I think it's different for everyone.
There are sacrifices for both, I
Yeah,
think. But if you would share us, which sacrifice do you think is the most that you have experienced during your priesthood?
me, it was at the time of ordination. I was invited to become a deacon and then priest, and I got to a point where I couldn't go any further, and I was stuck because I felt called on one hand to be a registered nurse, which I became, and I'd worked, and I felt called on the other hand to be a primary and secondary school teacher, which I'd also done all the study and had some experience in. But my whole being felt called to be a priest. So I felt I had to give up all my study at university and all those, you know, the desire to help people in hospitals and in schools. And when I was able to do that, it took me 2 years. I had time of just discernment. God really surprised me, because I was then later appointed to a parish where I was a chaplain to a secondary girls' school, a hospital, a kindergarten, a primary school, nursing homes, the parish. So God used all those gifts for his kingdom when he wanted to use them. So for me, that was one great sacrifice. The other is that I always saw myself getting married and always wanting to have a big family. And the way I sort of saw it was that God was calling me to have even a bigger family, which is the church. Um,
And with all your spiritual children. And yeah. And last but not the least, but of course, our lovely Virgin Mary. What would you tell us about her? How's your relationship with her? How did you fall in love with her?
yes, I know we're running out of time,
Yeah.
but we'll see if I can in very short, just a very quick story. I think that really changed everything for me. A lady across the road went to Lourdes, and my mum had asked her to buy some rosary beads for me. And so when she came back, I went over with my mum to get these rosary beads and say hello to this lady. And I found that they were all drinking holy water, not coffee, but holy water. And they wanted me to drink holy water. And I said, oh, no, 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 you don't drink holy water. You bless yourself, but you don't drink it. That's wrong. And I was quite upset with them. I said, no, you don't do that. Because I thought they're becoming a little bit too religious, cuckoo, yeah. And then they said, no, you've got to drink it. You've got to drink it. So just to keep them quiet, I just drank it. And I said a little prayer. It's water from Lourdes, because the lady said, no, when Our Lady appeared to Saint Bernadette, she asked Saint Bernadette to drink from the stream, from the water that was coming out where she dug. And so I drank it. I didn't think much of it, but I did ask Our Lady to protect me. You wouldn't believe it. The next day, I had an appointment with the doctor at the hospital. I'd waited 4 months for this appointment because I was suffering with a kidney stone, intense pain, to a point where sometimes I had to, be wheeled in a wheelchair, because I couldn't walk. Anyway, I went to this appointment and I showed the doctor the kidney stone, and he said, "Oh, when did that come in?" I said, "Just this morning. And last night I drank holy water from Lourdes."
Oh, incredible.
And it was my birthday that day. And I felt that Our Lady had given me a little gift. And so that's where my devotion to Our Lady began. And I started to learn the rosary. I've been to Lourdes 9 times. I've been to Fatima 9 times. I've been to Medjugorje 6 times. Garabandal 6 times. Our Lady of Guadalupe 3 times. There's also Our Lady of Good Success in Ecuador twice. And there's all these other shrines of Our
Father,
Lady. I know
you
this.
need to come back.
Come back
You
with.
gotta come back to tell us
Yes.
about
Oh.
all of these encounters, please. This is beautiful. We are we are consecrated to Jesus through Mary,
Okay.
and that's basically the renewal of our baptism
Yeah, promises.
promises, and 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 we live in the faith differently, because she takes us to Jesus beautifully. Like, it's just is we're very happy.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and when I mentioned before that we give you a call to see if you were
Yeah,
available
yeah.
for our renewal marriage renewal. Um, I remember a picture that Sergio took. He was our photographer, and
Mhm.
he's a camera guy.
Okay.
In the beautiful picture that we were on our knees doing that act of consecration again, and I saw in the picture your face as Our Lady was talking to you. It was
You'll have to share the photo with me.
You have to share what happened there.
That'd be great.
I will share it with you.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts, your experiences. It's such a blessing to us. Thank you.
Yeah, please stay with us for more chapters. Definitely we're gonna have again.
Yes.
Father Aurelio, lo vamos a tener nuevamente. Por favor, suscríbanse, denos su comentario y compartan con sus amigos y conocidos. Que Dios los bendiga, que la paz de Cristo sea en cada uno de sus corazones. Adiós.